Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so incredibly delighted to be here. And I just appreciate that we have this opportunity to come together to really anchor in this time of year and in this year in general. I've been reflecting on 2020, as many of us have. How could you not, right? There's so much going on in our world right now. And it is reminding me of the importance of the founding principle of unity. There is only one power and one presence. So many of us have been asking for a great transformation. We've heard that over and over again. We're looking for this great transformation. And what if, I'm going to ask it as a what if 2020 is exactly what we've been asking for? It has been an opportunity for us to pause, to reflect, to reboot, to honor everything happening, to allow ourselves to feel what is present, and then to go deep within and ask ourselves, what do I really want to create in my own life and in the world? And so, what we're talking about today is the law of radiance. Of course, those of us who have been in New Thought know about the law of attraction, and we understand that our thoughts create a reality, right? What I see happening right now is a profound shift happening in consciousness on planet Earth, where we are starting to shift from the law of attraction to the law of radiance. The first time I ever came to speak with your community, we talked some about this. And I felt like taking this a little deeper because here we are, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, where we've had an opportunity to anchor in gratitude. And as we move into December and into the holidays, we can remind ourselves that as we anchor in gratitude, we then can recognize that we are also the light of the world. We are who and what we've been waiting for. We are the ones that have been called to radiate light into the world. I so appreciate David talked about the full moon. I didn't realize it was a full moon, but how appropriate that we're talking about the light and the law of radiance. If you're anything like me, you might have, at least at one point in your evolution, thought something like, once I get this or that, I will be okay. I can be free. Once I manifest the perfect partner, I can be at peace. Once I finally discover my purpose and find the perfect vocation, then then I can be truly happy. What we're exploring today is the possibility that it's actually the other way around. And I'm thinking of the quote that says, if you're not grateful for what you have, what makes you think you're going to be grateful if you get more? Because that's really how I used gratitude. And I say that used gratitude very consciously. I used principles, unity principles, new thought principles, the law of attraction, because I wanted to manifest more stuff. And I had an unconscious belief that once I manifest all that stuff, whether it's material possessions or the perfect relationship, the perfect vocation, then I could be at peace. Now, I know that's not really what unity was teaching. I recognize that what we were really saying is as we tune into our frequency, that love frequency, when we recognize that there is one power and one presence, and that we're a perfect expression of that power, then we naturally radiate that into the world and the world starts to respond. For me, what I want to lean into a bit is that the issue with that is that I still believed that the reason I was doing it was to manifest more stuff. Now that may not be true for you, but that was absolutely true for me. So what is the difference between the law of attraction and the law of radiance? Very, very simple, really. The law of attraction tells us that as we change our frequency and change our thinking and even shift our emotions, that we naturally have an energy about us that attracts certain things to us. And yes, that is absolutely true. And I think what we're inviting ourselves right now to do, to lean into, is a deeper awareness that we're really tuning into that frequency of love recognizing that we are a perfect expression, a perfect emanation of the one power and the one presence. And then we're here to radiate that into the world, not so that the world will reflect it back to us, but that we can actually contribute something to the world. So when I started in 2012, I started my own New Thought community. I was the assistant minister at Unity in San Francisco, and I listened to my inner calling, and I got really clear that it was time for me to start an independent New Thought center. And a really good friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, asked me, what is it about your new spiritual center that is fundamental? What's the most important thing to you? And as I reflected on that and really got quiet and listened to that inner knowing, what came through is to create a community of people that were dedicated to personal and global transformation, that we are here to make a profound difference on planet Earth. So when I told my friend that, he said, who wants that? We all just want more stuff. We just want to be happier. We just want the perfect partner. And so I reflected on that, and I really got to a place where I recognized that that is possibly true for quite a few people, that what we're really looking to do is to attract better relationships, to attract more money, to attract more health. And all of that is wonderful. And in my experience, because it's much better to share my experience, and I'm going to tell you my story of how this shift happened in my life, because my experience is definitely more, I think, more valuable than my opinion. I could do a whole talk on opinions. Maybe that's the next talk, the opinion trap. That's actually a section in my book, Conscious Being, but I'll just bookmark that. That would be a fun conversation to have at a different time. When I came into New Thought, it was 1988. I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and I felt broken. I felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. I felt damaged. I had been searching outside of myself to try to feel relief from this sense of disconnection and brokenness. And when I came to Unity, I felt something. I did hear something. There were thoughts, there were principles, there were concepts that my mind really loved. But more than that, it was a feeling. I could feel a frequency or a vibration that felt like coming home. So I was drawn to this teaching in such a powerful way. It was so resonant for me because I grew up, like so many of us grew up, being taught that God was a person and that usually it was a he. We were taught up there and out there somewhere. And somehow I just didn't quite measure up, and I needed to surrender myself to this God. And so when I came in to Unity and I heard people saying, actually, each of us is a particle of source energy, of God energy, and that's inherently who and what we are. That was something that not only blew my mind, but it allowed my heart to open up and feel so much like I had come home. So then, after a very short time in Unity, I quickly grabbed onto the principle thoughts held in mind create after their kind. And so I went about manifesting and learning to manifest. And I spent a lot of time, I did the 4T's course and I did all the things that we do at Unity to learn how to manifest. This is my experience. I remember one workshop I went to. We were doing vision boards, right? This is the time of year maybe that we start doing our vision boards to create what we want to manifest in the following year. And it was really clear to me right before we started doing the vision boards. It became clear to me that what I wanted to do is leave my vision board blank, because I knew that anything that I would put on my board would be a limitation in some way. I remember very clearly the power of holding that blank space and recognizing the infinite possibilities. And I remember sitting in the room and thinking, I can't do that. What are they going to say? Look at everyone. They're putting their mansion on there and their 3 Mercedes and their perfect partner. And so I remember that moment thinking, oh, I better do that too. So I did. I put it all on there. And deep inside of me, though, I was realizing there's so much more power in the expansiveness of not holding a specific picture, but holding a love frequency. Oh, no, that's not true, right? That was my mind that came in and said, no, 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 put the stuff on there, right? So, as I said, I still felt broken. I hadn't done a lot of the deeper healing work. I hadn't made peace with my past. I was carrying around all these core false beliefs about myself and the world. I was feeling limited. And so I was using affirmations and then ultimately this vision board to try to shift those. I didn't yet realize that I was trying to shift them from the outside in. So I put everything on the vision board. I hung the vision board up where I saw it multiple times a day. I did the affirmations, and lo and behold, I started to manifest everything on the board. And it felt so magical. It felt like finally, oh my gosh, I'm going to get all of this. And it started happening, and more started happening. And I felt so in the vibration of manifestation. And then I realized that I got it all, and it didn't change how I felt about myself. It didn't change my experience of the world. And so that experience became really powerful for me because I realized the interesting paradox. It wasn't about manifesting the stuff, because I manifested all the stuff and I didn't feel any different. So, two things happened at that moment that I think are really important to me to share with you this afternoon. One, as I said, I realized that wasn't it. You know, Jim Carrey said, I wish everyone to be rich and famous and get everything they've ever desired so they realize it's not it. And when I first heard that quote, I said, well, easy for you to say, you've done all of that, right? My experience was very, very much like that. But the second thing that happened that is even more important is I realized in the not feeling different in manifesting all that, my soul was yearning for something deeper. So the paradox is it's not the stuff, it's not manifesting the stuff, but in doing all of that, I got to a place where I realized it is wonderful to learn how to manifest. It is wonderful to use affirmations. Isn't it great that we recognize that our vibration changes what's attracted to us? But then there was a deep yearning for something more. So it wasn't that there was anything fundamentally wrong with the way I had done it. It was just when I manifested all of that, I realized it was time for a deeper awareness. And that deeper awareness brought me to an understanding that everything I've ever been searching for is actually already within me. And then I started hearing the unity teachings in a really different way. Have you ever heard the same teaching over and over again? And then, 2 years into it, you're like, oh, that's so great. I just heard something new. And only to realize later, wow, that's what they've been saying all along. But my level of consciousness could only hear it from where I was at. Now, we could go into judgment about that. We might call that metaphysical malpractice, right? So the invitation here is to see ourselves without judgment. So for me, I realized that all those answers were already within me. I came into the world with that light, with that love. That's who and what I am. I didn't need anything in order to radiate that light. I shifted from how can I manifest and attract to how can I make a profound difference on planet Earth. And that's when everything got really interesting for me. The reason I say interesting is once I started doing that, the paradox again was that I had, at least to the best of my ability, let go of an attachment of outcomes or external manifestation. And I focused more on cultivating a profound relationship with my inner self, my true nature. I had a client recently ask me, do you really walk around all the time knowing that you are love and light, knowing that you're a particle of God essence, that you're one with source energy, and all you see is love? Is that really how you walk around all the time? And my answer was, yes, it is how I walk around all the time, but I don't always remember that. I often forget my true nature. I often start to believe in my programming, the beliefs of my own limitation, not enoughness, not good enough. And now what I recognize is because I've dedicated myself to cultivating a relationship with my true nature, I can begin to observe those programs rather than being them. And this is really important. And I know that all of us who are here today have had this experience, right? Those moments when we know that we know that we know. It's not anymore an intellectual understanding. Wow, there is one presence and one power, and I'm an emanation of that. We feel it, we lean into it. And then maybe 5 minutes later, something happens. We turn on the news, someone says something, and we might forget that reality. And we start to believe that we are our thoughts, we are our perspectives. And we can see that this is the issue with the world, right? When I believe I am my thoughts instead of I have thoughts, then I get caught in the ego drama of life. And so as we shift into this time of year, as we've anchored in gratitude this Thanksgiving weekend, and we can now honor that gratitude is the grounding principle that allows us then to become aware of our own true nature, our own light essence. And as we move into the darkest time of the year coming up here in a few weeks, we recognize that we are the light in the midst of that we have an opportunity, and one might even say an obligation, to be love and light in the world. I was struck by the conversation before the service started as we were talking about Mr. Rogers. And what I appreciated was I couldn't tell who was talking, but I heard people talking about Mr. Rogers and his documentary, which is so incredible. And someone said, wow, we really need him right now. And so what I want to say to that is that we are him right now. That each of us has within us the ability to be that loving presence on the planet. You know, Mr. Rogers, not everyone knows, but he was an ordained minister. His ministry was his show. His ministry was the presence that he presented when he was around kids. And of course, someone else did say, you know, he got some, you know, there was some judgment of him. And it's interesting if you watch the documentary, the judgment of him was, well, if you tell everyone they're whole and perfect just the way they are, how are they going to ever strive to be better? Interesting point of view. That's the way I like to frame it. Interesting point of view. Because in my experience, it's exactly the opposite of that. When I really understand that light is who and what I am, love is who and what I am, and that's true for every single living being on the planet, even someone who has different political views, for example. When I really understand that, I can understand then that it is not only my responsibility, but it's my birthright to be that light in the world. And then, as I said, the greatest paradox happens in our lives, and it happened in my life. And the greatest paradox for me was, as soon as I detached from the need to manifest and took my umbilical cord that I'd been trying to plug into a place, a situation, a relationship, and plugged it back into the source energy that I am, what happened that was paradoxical is all of a sudden I manifested so much, even so much more than I did when I was doing the vision board. But this time it was profoundly different, because this time it was completely congruent with my purpose. Now, I want to be clear when I'm saying this, it doesn't mean that there it is, I was finished. From then on, I knew my purpose and I lived as my purpose. As I said before, there are times I forget that. There are moments I forget that. But having that deep awareness of my true nature, when we have a deep awareness of our true nature, then we can begin to observe the ever-changing conditions of our lives. And thoughts are an ever-changing condition, including and especially my own. I can have an opinion and then 5 minutes later have the exact opposite opinion. So I realized very quickly that it wasn't about changing my mind, changing my thinking, or even changing the narrative. It was about recognizing that whatever I'm thinking, it is limited in some way. But when I am deeply aware of my true nature and I'm radiating that into the world, then everything changes. So, in closing, what I want to offer is simply an invitation. I know that each of us has dedicated ourselves to being love, to being light in the world. So, what is this invitation that I want to offer? I want to offer the possibility that we can have love and compassion for ourselves in the midst of this process. Because if you're anything like me, you wanted to do spirituality perfectly. I wanted to do unity perfectly. I wanted to do my affirmations perfectly. And so, what I want to invite for us is for us to take this moment to dedicate with each other and with ourselves to be gentle, to be loving, to have compassion for all parts of ourselves. What if there wasn't even a spiritual and a human? That everything that we have called humanity is actually part of spirit. So as we go out into the world, whether that's on Zoom or in the world physically, we can be that love, we can be that light. I think life is a great experiment. So I invite you to try this on, as I know you already do, because when we come together collectively and say yes, we come together in a group where two or more are gathered, that light becomes brighter, that becomes intensified. And that's exactly what is wanted and needed on the planet. We don't need to fight. We can call off the search, call off the fight, rest in this greater reality of who and what we are, and shine brightly. Peace and blessings. I'm so honored to be here with you. So incredibly grateful for the invitation to share with you today.